Hey everybody, and welcome to Foundations. Today we have a few new poses to learn. We have lizard pose, and we have hero's pose, Virasana, and the hero's pose variations. I was going to do lizard pose in last week's video and put it together with pigeon, but I think pigeon needed its own video. Make sure you check that out if you haven't already. So today's props. I have a block and I have a bolster. If you don't have these things, that's okay. When I started out doing yoga, I didn't have any props. I didn't even have a mat. There's a very loud bird up there. I did yoga just on a bare hardwood floor. Ouch. But you can use pillows, blankets around your home to make yourself comfortable and to support the body, which is really the point of props, is to be able to support the body as the body moves into its own unique special place in the pose. So let's start out with lizard pose, and we're going to move quickly through these poses because I'm trying to keep these videos short. In a few more classes we're going to start to put them together though. So come into tabletop, all fours. We've done this before, you remember. You've got your wrists are under shoulders and knees are under hips. If this is too tough for your wrists, walk your hands forward a little bit, that's okay. Or you can use two blocks and just bring your forearms up to blocks. Good. So let's move through a couple of cats and cows. I just like to get started by warming up the spine a little bit. So let's connect breath and movement by inhaling as we drop the belly, lift the head, lift the chest, free up the tailbone. Deep breath in and exhale it all out as you tuck the tailbone, round the spine, drop the head. Let's do a few more. Inhale, drop the belly, free up the tailbone, open the chest. And exhale, tuck the tailbone, round the spine, drop the head. Keep moving at the pace of your own breath. I don't know if the microphone picks up all the pops in my body. I'm very poppy. Some people are just like that. Unless it hurts, it's perfectly fine. Good, and you can start to add in extra movements, starting to add a little bit of creativity into your practice, just flowing in whatever way feels nice in your spine and your hips and your shoulders. Maybe you flip the hands around to stretch the wrists. That's really intense, but can feel very nice. It's a way we don't usually move. Good. All right, so let's come into our first lizard pose here. Take your left foot, reach out behind you, and then draw it up. If you need a little assistance, just grab behind that heel and pull it on up there. Good. Now, instead of a low lunge, where we're here like on railroad tracks here, we're gonna walk that heel toe the foot out to the side so that my foot is, the edge of my foot is almost flush with the edge of my mat. Not quite, but the distance may be a little bit different depending on your hips and your body. So this is lizard pose here. Now, if this is really intense for you, you might come up and just start working your way into the hips this way. You can also rest your arms on a block or two, supporting the upper body, making it a little bit more relaxing this way. A bolster would do as well. That'd be a nice soft place to rest the arms. Remember that the blocks have 3 heights, so that's the highest height. Here's the middle height, and then of course here's the lowest height. You can also just rest on the hands here. So this is what we call passive lizard pose. We're still working really hard, but if you want to make this pose a little more active, you can tuck the toes and lift the knee. Yeah, so there's 2 different versions of lizard pose. All right, we're just going to hold this. One thing I like to do, instead of just holding this steady here, is I like to find a little movement in my lizard. I've actually seen some lizards do this, haven't you? Just kind of rocking back and forth. I don't know if there's a name for this. It just feels nice. Sometimes I think a little movement in some of these poses is beneficial too. There's another pop. I don't know if the microphone picks those up, but they're pretty loud. All right, so I'm gonna drop the knee and come back to tabletop. We're just gonna switch sides. Again, we're moving through these poses pretty quickly. Good, so I'm on the right leg here, and find your version of lizard pose. So I'm gonna start in a nice passive lizard here. So we're working both hips here. This hip is opening, especially in the outer hip. I can feel it here. You don't have to feel exactly the same way as me, but really opening this hip in one way, and we're opening the front of the other hip, of this left leg back here. The front of that hip is stretched nicely. It feels pretty good. I'm going to move into an active lizard now and find a little bit of movement back and forth, just a few little pulses. Keep breathing, don't hold your breath. Nice deep breaths in and out the nose. Good, and lower the knee if it's lifted, untuck the toes, and bring that foot back to tabletop. All right, let's come up off the wrist. I'm gonna sit back on my heels and just circle off the wrist, just because it feels good. It's nice to stretch the wrists a little bit, move them a little bit after you've borne weight on them. And just remember that. So if you're in a pose for a really long time, and you're like, man, maybe this pose isn't for me. My wrists are really feeling it. Just take a break. Just come up off your wrists and circle them a little bit. Even if you're in a class and nobody else is doing it, it doesn't matter what the other people are doing. Do what you need to do for your body. Follow along with the class, but really, you know what your body needs. Don't think it's not for you just because your wrists can't bear weight as long as some other people's. Everybody is unique. All right, so we're gonna come into hero's pose, and I'm gonna use a block, and I'm gonna show you half hero's pose first. So from tabletop, let's bring that left foot up again, grab the block. I'm gonna place the block back here, and I'm gonna sit back onto the block. You can use 2 blocks if this is really hard on your knees here. Or if you're like, okay, I don't feel very much here, I need a little more, you can just sit right back on the ground to the inside of this calf. So we're sitting back in a little different way than we might usually. This is half hero's pose. Some people call it treeing. I like calling it half heroes because it just sounds a little simpler. And I'm gonna switch to the other side now. So again, to get into this pose, I'm gonna start in tabletop. Then I'm gonna bring the right foot forward, place that block behind me to the inside of the calf, and sit back. You know, I'm gonna show you on this side what it looks like without the block. So I'm sitting back, and I'm sitting to the inside of my calf and foot. And just pause here. Sitting up nice and straight with a long spine. Breathing gently in and out the nose. All right, so let's try full hero's pose, Virasana. All right, I'm gonna come forward, step back, and bring my knees together, feet apart. And I'll show you this pose from a few different angles. Take that block, set it behind me, and sit back. So you can see it from this angle. You can stay put. I'm just gonna show you from a few different angles so you see exactly what my legs are doing here. Knees are together, feet are apart. And then I'll just turn to face you here. Good. So this is hero's pose, Virasana. An alternative to this pose, if you really feel uncomfortable here, I'm going to remove the block. And you can just bring your heels and knees together and just sit back on the heels. This is a different pose. This is Virasana, Thunderbolt pose. And it's a good alternative to Virasana, Hero's pose. All right, last pose is a reclined Hero's pose. And for this pose, I'm going to use a bolster. But if you have a bunch of pillows at home you'd like to use, you can do that. So it's like Hero's pose. Then you can lay back, and you don't have to come all the way back even. You can just rest on the palms here. Find a little bit of opening in the shoulders as you do so. Or if it feels comfortable, you can lay all the way back, like so. And I have the bolster here. You might have pillows. You don't have to have them. If you need more, you can start removing some props. I just like to show you with the props first, because then you at least know how to use them should you decide one day you'd like to. Close the eyes. Relax the muscles of the face, softening around the mouth and the jaw. Arms can be wherever feels comfortable. And from here, this is the last pose in today's class. You can either remove your props or settle into them another way and come into Shavasana. Or, if you're like me, this pose is super yummy and super comfortable, you can end your class just right here, like this. But wherever you are, let's take a cleansing breath. So find a deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth and exhale. Let's do that once more. Deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth and exhale. I'll see you next time. The light in me sees the light in you. Namaste.